Was the body positivity movement always a scam? Was it really always about money? Hey everyone, welcome back to the 1 Year 100 Pounds podcast. Hey everyone, welcome back to the 1 Year. My name is Whitney Holcomb and I'm author of the book 1 Year 100 Pounds. For those of you who are new here, I lost 100 pounds on my own when I was 14 years old and I've kept it off for almost 20 years. Now I have both a YouTube channel and a Spotify podcast where I basically give my thoughts on the weight loss community, the health and fitness movement, as well as my thoughts on the new fat acceptance movement, which I am not a part of because I just don't believe that you can be healthy at every size. If you want to check out my book, which is right here, then you can find the link below to Amazon and Barnes & Noble. My book is basically a tough love weight loss guide for how I lost 100 pounds in 1 year and how you can also lose weight. So in today's episode, we are talking about the body positivity movement and how it may have just been a scam all this time. And what I mean by scam is I think it was basically a way for big corporations and big clothing retailers just to make more money off of people. I think that it was a scam in that I don't think most people really are happy being fat or unhealthy. And I think that the introduction of Ozempic has shown that. Because now that weight loss is easy for everyone, all of a sudden everyone's skinny, right? What happened to before where it was love your body at every size, love your curves. Lizzo, she was a huge proponent of the fat acceptance movement, of the body positivity movement. And now she's been losing weight also, which is awesome, which is great for her. She looks amazing. And I'm sure she is so much healthier than she was before. So it's not a criticism on anyone who wants to lose weight. I think that's fine. But it's just what happened to loving your body at every size? What happened to being fat being a normal body size? I just think that this is an interesting topic because I definitely remember the very beginning of the body positivity movement. And I think it started with great intentions. And I think at first it was amazing. I think the first time I really remember the body positivity movement taking hold must have been back in like 2010, around that time, 09, 2010. And this was kind of right before the downfall of Victoria's Secret. And I think what happened with Victoria's Secret is it was such a phenomenon. And it was just, every girl wanted to be a Victoria's Secret model. It was just this ridiculous standard of beauty that, everyone dreamed about having. And I loved Victoria's Secret. I loved the Victoria's Secret angels, just like any other girl. But I definitely can say that around this time, it kind of hit like a peak in a not so good way. I definitely remember some of the advertisements around that time, like getting so ridiculous that even in my young mind back then, so again, like 09, 2010, I was like 19, 20. Even then I realized like, okay, this is like kind of too aggressive. Like it got to the point where it's like, are they really trying to market towards women or men? Because the advertisements were basically like soft corn, if you know what I mean. And it just got kind of crazy. I think this was also the peak of everything in magazines being so photoshopped. So, you had these Victoria's Secret models who are already perfect in person, but then they just heavily photoshopped them, getting rid of every single flaw, making them look even skinnier than they already were. I think it got to a head where a lot of women were like, look, we just can't, this is just kind of crazy. Like, we can't be expected to look like this. It was making people feel bad because it was so unrealistic and just so out there. I think people were just getting kind of tired of it. It was almost the point where it was like laughable, like that, these girls were just so perfect. It was just like, this is just not represent anyone. Okay. And then right around that time, you had different companies like Dove come out with their campaigns. I think it was like love your body at every size or something. And they did a good job with it. They showed just like normal women with like normal bodies. And then not all of them were like heavily obese. It was just like different body sizes and different heights, different races. And, it just showed them in a good light. Like they were just wearing like regular like underwear and just looking happy. You also had Aerie that came out with their own underwear brand, and they used normal models. Again, none of these models were like, at least that I remember, were like super heavy or super like unhealthily overweight. again, they were just normal looking people, still really attractive people, but normal looking. Like they showed stretch marks and they were not so heavily photoshopped, and they did really well. And I think because it was just really refreshing for a lot of people to see something that wasn't so fake and plastic looking. Like they saw people that represented them more. And I think that's kind of how it started, or at least how I remember it starting. And I think that there were many great aspects of the body positivity movement. Especially someone like me who, I've been open, I have stretch marks and loose skin. That definitely does not fit into the beauty standard of that day, right? Like that doesn't really fit into anyone's beauty standards even now. But the body positivity movement was like, look, kind of like accepting what you can't change, especially if the beauty standard is looking like Giselle, who's like 6 feet and built like a gazelle. Well, if you're 5'2" with like an apple shape, no, you're never gonna look like her, right? Like you can still look really awesome at 5'2" with an apple shape, but you're never gonna look like Giselle because of that. And I think that was the main point of body positivity, was just that you don't have to look like all the models on TV. You can still be beautiful, in the body shape you're in, whether you're, super thin or not super thin. So I think all those aspects of body positivity were great. And obviously bigger people fell into this as well, plus size women and men, because yes, it's true. You should love yourself at every size. I agree with that. You are worthy as a person at every size. That doesn't mean that you're healthy. And that doesn't mean that wanting to get healthy or wanting to lose weight means you hate yourself. But this is kind of where I believe body positivity started to go wrong. I think it very quickly got taken over by like fat acceptance people and health at every size, which again, like I've said, I'm not proponents of, because you cannot be healthy at every size. That's just the truth. Being fat, while yes, you are worthy and you can still be beautiful, it does not mean you're healthy. In fact, being fat almost objectively means you are not healthy. Just having too much fat tissue covering your organs, weighing down your bones, it causes so many different disorders and health conditions I'm not even going to get into right now, but it does mean you are not healthy. And it was interesting because I also, very vividly remember like all the advertisements kind of quickly changed from having just like normal sized people and just kind of showing different body types to now, the brands were all about promoting not just normal sized people, but like obese people. And they were just really trying to push the fat acceptance, health at every size thing. And I think for the only reason, because it was popular at that time and these corporations and these brands, these retailers, they were making money from it. Like, I think that is one thing that people need to realize, is that brands, retailers, the big corporations, they are after money. And the only reason that so many of them changed their tune around that time was because Aeropostale, they did so well with their campaign. Dove was doing really well with their campaign. So they all kind of tried to jump on the bandwagon. And you saw even recently, Victoria's Secret tried to do the same thing. They failed miserably, but even they tried to jump on that bandwagon. And why I think that, again, many of these corporations, body positivity was a scam coming from them, because I don't think that they actually ever believed that. Again, I think that they were only after money. I think probably the best example was Victoria's Secret. Like when they tried to change their tune and have, like bigger models and different races and everything, which on the surface, it's great. Yes, I love that, they had different types of people coming in and modeling for them. But it was just the way they did it that shows that that they actually do not think that these people are attractive. And like what I mean, maybe this is just my opinion, but almost up until recently, some of the stuff they were putting out, like their ads and their pictures, like they were really bad. Like they made the girls look really bad. And it wasn't even that the models themselves were so unattractive. It was just that the way they styled them was awful. The way they took the pictures, and they even did it to like the straight size models, like Hailey Bieber was one. I think they had I forget some of the other like angels. They just took pictures of them and like put out these ads that just put them in a really bad light. Like I haven't explained it. I have to find some examples, but it was just not, number one, it was not the typical Victoria's Secret, standard, and it just didn't look good. And this had nothing to do with the girls being bigger. it just had everything to do with how they styled them. And the reason I think this is personally is because I think Victoria's Secret was like, oh, okay, we need to get more normal looking girls in here, or we have to make these beautiful models look more normal. So what is their idea of normal people? Well, we have to make them look ugly. Honestly, that's what I think it was. I think that their idea of normal to them, to people like Victoria's Secret, means ugly. So that's why they took these models and they like took them in bad light. They were trying to make them look as worse as possible because they thought that like the normal ugly person would relate to it more. And it wasn't even Victoria's Secret. Like I remember watching different movies that, now featured, plus size actresses as the main character, which again, I think was awesome, great. But when you look at some of these movies, again, I will try to find some examples. The way they styled these girls, it was like you could tell like they'd never styled like a plus size woman before. You know what I mean? Like, and even the way they did their makeup and hair, like they just did not show these girls in the best light. And honestly, I think it is because they do not even perceive them as being attractive. You know what I mean? So they're just kind of like, oh, like just throw whatever on her. We're trying to make her look normal. So to them, making someone look normal means making them look more ugly. Like, I'm not saying that these girls were ugly. What I'm saying is like, I almost feel like they purposely or not on purpose made the girls look worse because they were just so inexperienced in working with plus size models, or they thought of them as like an afterthought. Like they didn't, you know what I mean? Maybe I'm not expressing myself right, but that's just kind of the vibe I got from different retailers and brands at this time. Like that's why I could tell like, okay, this is just all a scam. They're doing this for money. As soon as the tables turn, they will go back to what they love, which is the straight size model. And I think it's a shame because, again, I've said this so many times, like I don't think that being plus size just automatically makes someone unattractive. I definitely don't think that. There are very many beautiful, bigger girls. So I don't know why Victoria's Secret, I don't know why they had to change their aesthetic. Like, why couldn't they just find bigger girls but keep the aesthetic? And I think even more so, it became more about being fat positive, showing that they were progressive, more so than even body positivity. So for example, like I said, like at first it was, they were showing people with all kinds of different bodies, and then it became very strictly like only plus size girls. And I can remember this very, very well, like back in New York City around this time when I was still doing a little bit of modeling. Most of the time I was in New York City, I was around like a size 6 to 8. And I remember going to different agencies and different castings and having a really hard time because every time I went to an agency, they were like, oh, okay, yeah, like your look, but you got to be either like a straight size, like a 2 to 4, or you have to be plus size, like which starts at like a size 12. So they always told me either lose weight and come back or gain weight and come back. And I just thought it was really interesting because it's like, okay, again, we have this problem here in America. We have, the too crazy, like skinny obsession, right? Where everyone was like the heroin chic kind of thing. And then we also have the problem of obesity. And I would think that the kind of solution to that would be like, okay, well, how about we just, celebrate people who are normal size, healthy size. But that was not my experience. Like I remember going to castings and I would be, one of the only like mid-sized girl where it was either like the straight size models, like the really skinny girls, or the plus girls. And I knew when I saw that I was not going to get the job because I was neither of that. There just really wasn't a market for people in between. And I don't know that there even is now, like I don't see too many like mid-sized girls represented. I know there are some definitely, but sometimes even those girls get considered plus size. Like Renee Rapp, I think is what's her name, which is another thing too. I think that if you guys saw the Mean Girls movie, the way they styled her, again, it shows that they really don't care about plus size people or bigger girls because the way they styled her was like they were trying to hide her body the entire time. And Renee Rapp is not fat. She's just like, I think she's like a size like 10 or whatever, but you can even tell in like the camera angles, they were always trying to like only get like a headshot of her or a torso shot. You never really saw her full body, which again points to my point of body positivity being a scam. Like, they really don't want to represent these people, because even then they were trying to hide as much of her body as possible, trying to make her look thinner. Which again, if you really thought that she was beautiful and you wanted to celebrate her size, you would have put her in clothing that was more flattering. Anyway, I don't know. That was just my opinion. But beyond body positivity being a scam, I also think it became something almost, I wouldn't say evil is the right word for it, but it became something very negative or something very mean. Like, it almost kind of went totally, like, swung the opposite way, where, it was all about, being plus size, and you as a woman, you had to accept where you were. In fact, like, if you were skinny, you were almost being toxic, and you must have an ED. And God forbid that you are bigger and you want to lose weight. Well, that means, you're a traitor to the body positivity movement, and you must hate yourself. And there are still so many people in, like, the fat acceptance movement, spewing lies about how obesity is a body type, how they were born to be obese, totally disregarding the science and the basic facts that no, people have not always been obese. Yes, there have always been people who have been bigger in the past, even obese, but they were like enigmas. Most of the time they had to be really rich people, because most people just couldn't be fat back in the day because they didn't have enough money or food. And I've said so many times, obesity rates have just skyrocketed in modern times. Like, there was never this amount of obese people like there is now. And there are so many reasons for that. Main reason being that we just eat too much. And so this is the really interesting part, I think, about this whole body positivity movement, which I think some of it is dying now. And you can still see so many people, like, online still trying to hold on to this. But they are really out here shaming skinny women. They are really out here shaming women who want to lose weight, who want to get fitter, who just want to do it for them. Maybe it's because they do want to fit the beauty standard. Maybe it's because they just want to be healthier. But there really are people out here bullying those women, even though these are the same people who cried about being bullied before for being fat, who cried about people not being tolerant towards them because they're fat. But now they're really out here accusing these women of having eating disorders or being toxic, or, trying to, fit the patriarchal standard. When I think the reality is, most people, most women, they want to be the best version of themselves. I don't believe most people are happy being fat, even if they say they are. If they really are, that's awesome. That's great. I would never try to convince someone to do something they don't want to do. If you are happy with your size and your body, that's awesome. That's great. But if you are not happy with your size and you do want to change, that's also fine. You should be able to do that, and you shouldn't have to explain yourself to anyone. Wanting to change your body, wanting to lose weight, I think it's no different than wanting to change your hairstyle or wanting to, change up your makeup look. I don't know why that is acceptable, but for some reason, when you say, like, hey, I want to lose like 5 pounds so I can feel a little bit slimmer, now all of a sudden that means you hate yourself. Now all of a sudden that means it's toxic. I think that, or at least for me, real body positivity is accepting the things you can't change and accepting that perfection doesn't exist. So for me personally, again, I did a whole video showing you guys my loose skin and stretch marks. I've come to accept that. I don't necessarily love it. I'm not going to be out here, like showing, waving my loose skin all around and like, saying, oh, you must think I'm beautiful. I also don't think it's ugly. I just don't really think about it. I have just accepted that I can't change it. It is what it is. And I focus on other things. And again, for me personally, I know that perfection doesn't exist, but I can always be better. And whether this is with my body and my fitness or other aspects of my life, I am someone I want to keep evolving. I want to keep developing. And sometimes that does mean my looks. Sometimes, like I said, I want to be a little bit skinnier. I want to look as good as I can, what I think looks my best. And I think that's different for everyone. Like, there are definitely people who, for them, looking their best would be to get rid of the loose skin and the stretch marks. They would probably do surgery. That's something that I don't personally want to do, just because I'm happy being the best I can even with that. But again, if you are someone like, hey, you're not happy with that, you don't like your loose skin, your stretch marks, you don't like your nose or whatever it is, sometimes body positivity or learning to accept yourself and finding peace with your body is changing something. And that's the opposite of what the body positivity movement would tell you. It would just tell you, accept yourself as you are right now. Like, don't change. And I think that, number one, change is inevitable. Change can be good. And again, I don't think getting healthier, getting leaner, wanting to be the best version of yourself, wanting to feel your best, I just don't think that's toxic. I think that's actually very positive. And I don't think it means you hate yourself. Again, I think this is probably even more relevant maybe to people who are just kind of like in between, like you're not an unhealthy weight, but you could be healthier, you could be thinner, you could be leaner, and maybe you want to be. It's in the back of your mind, you just know you'd feel a little bit better, then you should do that. And if you don't want to do that, that's also fine. Again, I think that is real body positivity. I think that is real acceptance. It's accepting people for wanting to do whatever they want with their body. But those are just my thoughts and opinions on the body positivity movement. But I am curious to know what you guys think. So you can let me know in the comments. And if you like this video, then subscribe to my channel or my podcast for more content like this. And I will see you guys next time.